Actually, I realized it quite early in life because I have always been a storyteller from school time. And writing was also part of my passion project all the time in my way of life. When in school, my friends used to come to me to help them with love letters. And, still feel that love letters are the first and most honest form of creative writing because you hardly get a chance to write again, isn't it? You have to be at your creative best to impress your reader, in the first round itself. So, from where started the practice? So, many of my friends would come during school time. They would give me brief of their friend they want to propose to. And then I would empathize. I'll get into their shoes and write for them. And I still have their blessings. And gradually, I started writing for school magazines. I was part of the literary circle society in school, in college. When I came to University of Delhi, I got a lot of opportunities for creative writing and public speaking and different forms of storytelling. So then happened journalism. I went to England. I did my master's in applied communications and I joined the BBC World Service in London as a broadcaster. Over there, also, writing was quite happening because you had to write news stories and you have to do interviews and then feature and all of that. Then came back, did a little bit of more journalism, and then shifted to fiction because that was the calling coming from. So I started writing, and fortunately, I'm a bilingual novelist. I write in English and in Hindi together. I don't translate. So I transcreate. When I do a story, I first write in one language. Maybe I write 21% of the story in a language, then I switch the language, start another one, write 40% there. And I keep on switching. Story, even if the story remains the same, I believe the reader base and the consumer community is different with a different sense of humor, with a different sense of humor. They're conditioned with different phrases and all of that. So when I was comfortable in both the languages, I thought, why not original writing? Why shouldn't I do the original writing for both the community of readers? So started right from my first novel, started writing in English and in Hindi, and so far, 10 novels have come up. All are bestsellers. All are from Penguin Random House. So, a bilingual novelist, and that too from Penguin Random House. And this gave me a lot of encouragement. There was this writer's residency, which is Asia's prestigious writer's residency in Seoul, South Korea. So, it's in Seoul art space. And I was nominated amongst three novelists from the whole of Asia with a Mongolian writer and one more from Bangladesh. And we were there for 2, 3 months' time. That was the time when I got the chance to meet the then Booker winner because she won Booker Prize during that period. Han Kan from South Korea for her novel The Vegetarian, who also got Nobel Prize for Literature last year. So we got a lot of exposure. So we did that. And in 2018, I got a writing award in literature in the House of Lords, British Parliament. So yeah, depends. If any theme touches me, sometimes I come to a plot from an idea or a feeling, and sometimes from a character to a plot. If I see someone, if that character and the ingredients of the character is fascinating, and if it stays with me for some time, my mind starts working in that direction. And there comes a point when my heart joins my mind. And that's the point I decide, okay, I should write on this. Mostly my areas of writing are small towns, small towns of not just India, but also any country. So global South small towns, I feel all the big stories come from small towns. All the phenomena are happening in small towns. The whole world is made up of small towns. Metros came quite late. Small towns and villages are the places from where the fertile minds have been migrating. Then another issue that fascinates me and I keep on writing around is the conflict of identity. Identity conflict in a small towner coming to a metropolis, then an Indian or a South Asian coming to a Western country, isn't it? So the conflict of identity on the basis of your faith, your religion, your class, your language, your geographical location, there is conflict outside wherever you go. And then there is a kind of conflict within you. You are reluctant. And talent comes after a lot of reluctance. So when a theme, be it identity or youth or migration or small town, fascinates me, or a character suffering from the conflict of all these elements, intrigues me, a character intrigues me, then my mind starts thinking first, and there comes a point when my heart is in sync with my mind, and then a story is born. And I don't, pre-decide, okay, this will be the beginning, middle, and end. Then I go into the flow. I keep on writing. Yeah. It's wonderful. Now, the latest generation is working at a very micro level. This generation is very honest, upfront, fearless, and interesting. They are quite free spirited. They understand that this is not love or a relationship, this is a situationship. So they spell it out, they define it. They say they ghost people if they don't like it. They friend zone, you know. These are new terms, but these feelings were always there. But the previous generations used to be under a lot of burden because of the social values were different. Now, things have changed. I don't say it's good or bad. These things are there. Every generation, they think that their generation is the best. And the previous one was bad and the upcoming one is not good. They're immature. And it's a natural process, In the 60s, people thought 70s is bad and 50s were bad and 60s is the best. So I don't judge millennials or Gen Z. In fact, I get fascinated seeing their clarity of mind, their honesty and fearlessness. They don't carry a burden for long. But there have been times, there have been characters in different phases where even if you're not liking being in a relationship, for the sake of it, for the sake of, say, being sensitive, you don't want to hurt anyone, and you're just dragging a relationship. So the interpersonal relationships and its dynamics has changed completely, which is so interesting also. What bothers me is the loneliness. Where you'll find people with millions of followers on Instagram, but they all have their own psychologists, their counselors, they are fighting loneliness. They start with the term hashtag solitude, and they don't know when they slip into loneliness, and then they have to see a psychologist or a counselor. Another problematic thing is the dialogues have reduced. Dialogues with parents and family members. If parents are supposed to say something to their children, they have to say it through a counselor. Then they listen. They're not able to say directly because they're not listening to them directly. So now they have to pay to convince their kids with the help of a counselor. These are interesting developments I see around. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm also a small towner. I come from Chaibasa in Jharkhand, which is very similar to Malgudi of R.K. Narayan. R.K. Narayan, sir, kept Malgudi as his center point. But in my case, my small towns have been changing because mostly I pick up stories and characters from my surroundings. So I have kept Chaibasa, Ranchi, Begusarai in Bihar, and then Agra in Uttar Pradesh. Also, Coventry in England is also a small town. So my small towns are not restricted to India alone, but anywhere. And I see similar magic. So yes, you are right. Mostly my geographical characters and characters in the novel are from real life situations. I feel that our lives are not very interesting all the time. Throughout, we are not interesting. So, if you'll have a character based on one real life character, it will not be interesting throughout. So, what I do, I pick up four different real life characters and pick their interesting parts and club those and form one character for my novel and story to make this character interesting for my readers so that the book becomes a page turner. So, yeah, it's very important to be connected with our surroundings and people, to understand them, to empathize with them, to look at them in totality, and then process and translate that into characters of your novels and the plot. No, actually, the basic work and passion is storytelling. Everything else are different forms of storytelling. When I write a story, I'm seen as a writer. When I broadcast it, as a broadcaster or a podcaster or a filmmaker. But the core is of a writer. I'm primarily a writer. I love to write, scribe my stories, write, and then I do whatever I do. The primary thing is to write first. And then we select the medium as per the requirement. What kind of amplification is needed for that specific subject? If it has to be, I did one audio, like I did one podcast with Amazon's Audible. So there, no video was there. So during COVID time, it's called Old School Romance, wherein I talked to many celebrity couples who believed in pre-internet era and the romance. So that was a different thing. Now I do something called Small Towns, Big Stories. That's a chat show on YouTube. So that was needed to be seen also. So I did that for YouTube. But everywhere, the basic, the fundamental thing, the solid foundation is of writing. So literature
So,
is where I thrive on. Yeah. So Mumbai is very interesting and fertile because you get people from all across. You get storytellers and characters from all across who wants to come and practice in the storytelling industry. So this is interesting. You get people from south also, from north also. This is west, from east as well. There are many foreign countries from where people come, technicians come, and it's yeah, it's quite interesting, and it impacts your storytelling. It's quite fascinating because I also visit many festivals as a speaker and as a distinguished author, be it Jaipur Literature Festival or Kalinga Literature Festival or in London or anywhere else. So, this was an observation that mostly in festivals, there is a set crowd of authors and speakers who are invited everywhere. People even pick topics from some other festival for their festival. So the locations were changing, the organizers were changing, but set of speakers, writers, and their content used to be very similar to each other. So I thought there is a need of getting into the literary leadership part and curatorial role so that difference can be brought in. So Nalanda was very much there in my mind since my childhood, and also studying history, the kind of legacy Nalanda has, right, from ancient India, the legacy, the heritage. So idea was to revive that. Systems are also doing things, but to create a literary atmosphere, I came up with this idea, and then I reached out to few people who were also interested. They said, then why don't you curate it? We'll support. And then this first ever Nalanda Literature Festival happened in December of 2025. And I reached out to good speakers and authors and linguists from all across the world, not just India. People from different countries also came. Many Buddhist countries also came. Also, we invited a lot of young first timers, also those who are aspiring to become writers, so that they can get a chance to interact and learn from people who have experience, who are their icons. They have grown up reading. So that was quite interesting and quite a successful festival of very high magnitude. So even in Bombay, I have been part of curating Litofest Mumbai, which is also, and it was quite interesting to get in touch with them because they were the one to award me for my first book. This was What a Loser, and the book had got the award called First Book Published by an Author Award way back in 2014. So, and after that, I became part of that and I helped them curate many editions. I used to moderate sessions and then be speaker in many. And this is how I became part of the core committee. So, this curatorial role and not just literary festival, like I position myself as an author and a cultural curator. So, it helps reaching out to new people, and it helps me come out of my own cushion space and being complacent that I am someone huge and I have arrived in life. No, we all are learning every day, isn't it? So it helps me connect with people which I like. It helps me reach out to new characters, interesting ones, and those can become part of my stories in the times to come. So idea is to be part of the society. Good bonding should be there, and this is one such practice, the curatorial thing, which helps you sustain also. So yeah. Yeah, actually, I this was a thought that uh, I always feel that society lacks empathy in many areas. So, and it's very easy to criticize the society and people around. So, I started doing is what is something I want to do and I can do also in my limited capacity. And the first set of community that came to my mind was the street children and children in slums and villages. And then I thought, what are their priorities? Their priorities are roti, kapda, makan. They want food for 3 times. They want shelter. They are in slums. But there are many NGOs, many government agencies, they are doing all of that. But I was thinking that, you know, there are hundreds and thousands and lakhs of such children who just grow up fighting for their bread 3 times. When they grow up, some of them study, do something, some of them are adopted, but most of them are just struggling a very lower middle class life to attain a lower middle class life. Cinema or being becoming sensitive towards their surrounding with the help of cinema is never going to be their agenda, and no one is thinking about that. What happens, these are very things in contrast. People think, oh, they don't have bread and they don't have shelter, you're thinking of cinema. Who will show them cinema? And I always feel that films are very powerful, the kind of impact films can bring. So I thought of this idea, why can't I screen films for them, children's cinema, which is already there, made by Children Film Society of India. It's their job to do it. No one is doing it because people are confused. They're showing it to all those convent kids. But what about those have-nots? So why can't an NGO do this? And then I thought of initiating this India's first street film festival for children in slums or villages, Sadak Cha Fruit Festival, and I tied up with some fruit vendors. Can you donate some fruits for children? And you're not going to get anything out of it. They said, okay, we'll not give you apples, we'll give you bananas because bananas are cheaper. And then I collaborated with CFSI. I asked them, can you give me a projector and few films? I want to show it to some children in the slums. They said, but if there is any damage, you have to pay. I said, okay. And we used to be extra careful. Then we reached out to many schools in slums. Schools were protected areas. And then we invited kids and we started doing workshops and started showing them films. And it picked up like anything. We did in, started from Delhi, Naisima Puri Basti, then in Dharavi, Mumbai. We came to Bangalore. We also went to Chennai, Hyderabad, way back. Then Patna, Ranchi. And I think it was in Gulbarga where a big function was there, and this festival was recognized as a good initiative. And I got this Youth Icon Award for Social Entrepreneurship, but that is just a passing reference. So, what is exciting me most is the popular culture in small town India and popular culture in global South. Also, I have noticed that the diaspora population in all the Indian diaspora countries like Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago, Mauritius, Fiji, the popular culture has migrated from the small towns of India. Also, all the movies are being made on the based on the stories from small town India. So, in the cultural context, I find small towns as a wonderful site for culture, and many elements are coming. And after the advent of social media, and now Insta Reels have reached out everywhere. They are so confident. They know what is happening in Los Angeles and Miami. They know everything. They know how they can become an influencer. Some lady in a village is making a reel after the husband is going for work, and she has become quite an influencer, making more money and creating more influence. They have understood the power of and the democratization of this media. That gone are the days when you should know someone to reach somewhere. Now everything is there in your mobile phone. If you have internet, you can create your content and your distribution channel is with you. So this popular culture in small town India is something very fascinating. Now recently civil services examination results are out. To create content, there are many candidates who have qualified civil services. They are being, events are happening wherein they are being uh, facilitated felicitated like some big politician or a big leader, and they're creating content, and then there are many people who are getting inspired, and then stories are happening who have just missed it, and there are some motivators, they're motivating, don't worry, next time. So there is a trend of how to create an event, how to create content, and which is very fascinating. People are not able to live without creating something. When they go to restaurant, before eating their food, they first want to click. And someone has become a food blogger, someone is writing. So what I'm taking up is what is fascinating these days, what is trending as far as cultural element is concerned in small town India. And my lens is of all forms of media to look at them, be it cinema or stories or social media, all of these. Yeah, they should first learn to do two things. One, they should be very honest about their feelings, and they should be fearless. They should not think, when they write, they should write it objectively. They should not think that only their father should be happy or mother should not be unhappy. They have to detach themselves from interpersonal relationships and all the biases and baggage. They should be honest and fearless, and it's very important to be observant. You can write what your mind can process, and your mind will process what you read. Or you When I say read, I don't mean read books alone. Reading books is just 10% of the reading. You have to be observant. You have to read things around you. Read characters. Read the. You have to smell the aroma of the environment. You have to read between the lines what's happening in Middle East. Why is this war not stopping? Why can't they stop it? Why can't it be resolved? What are the politics implied? Am I honest enough to write about it? So everything, because your writing can be impacted by anything, be it geopolitics, be it potato chips, be it you are not getting the LPG, isn't it? You say you are self-dependent as a country, but anything goes wrong somewhere outside India, you are in trouble. Prices are going up. So one has to be observant. One has to be reading the surrounding and write. One should practice to write honestly and fearlessly. There are two, three things. One, I live in Bombay. It's all cluttered a market here. You want to do things where those setups are not there. And I don't look at myself as someone just confined within the boundaries of India. I look at myself as a global practitioner of storytelling. So, as you see my trajectory, Penguin, my publisher, is a British publisher. I worked with the BBC before. I was part of this residency I was nominated for in South Korea. Then Dubai is again so fascinating because it has become the new capital of the world. People from all across the world are coming, settling down, professionals, students, all the universities worldwide, they have come up with their Dubai campuses. And so I felt, and Dubai has a good aspiration for Bollywood, people living over there. So also it's close to Bombay. So the USP of my film school and storytelling school is that practitioners will be taking up the classes, practitioners of the industries. For script writer whose films are being made can come and take up classes. That is more fascinating, and that's the knowledge of today, more contemporary and relevant, isn't it? So Dubai is also it, not too far from England and neither too far from Bombay. So it's geographically good and conducive environment. So that's why I thought of Dubai. But unfortunately, this Middle East war has stalled things for now. I meet a lot of people. I read about them. I go for talks and workshops and lectures with students who are interested in literature and storytelling. I have developed a module on digital storytelling. Recently, I conducted a master class for 12 days in Dubai, and 50 kids, students were there. And for 60 hours, we did that. So I have a good, decent number of young friends, and I keep, interacting with them and I observe them. And mostly I enjoy being with millennials and Gen Zs more. So, and I have tried to keep the younger one in myself be young. So, of course, the biological age can't be stopped. It keeps on growing. But I love to be young at heart. Though I have thought of many, and what I want to do is, there's a love story in my mind, which is set in the British period, 1942 to 1947, between Quit India movement and independence, and love story of the daughter of a freedom fighter and the son of an officer in imperial police. So it's actually based out of real life. My grandfather, paternal grandfather, my dad's father, was a police officer in the imperial police. He used to salute Union Jack, and during his job, India gained independence. Then he had to salute the tricolor, and he was not very happy about it. He thought he's a Britisher. And he always thought that India is not ready for a democracy. Yeah, he believed in Imperial School of History. And my Nanaji, my mom's dad, was a freedom fighter. He had participated in freedom movement. And his daughter and the so-called British officer's son, it's their story between 42 Quit India movement and the independence 47. So this is something Penguin has shown interest and has commissioned also. The working title is Love in the Right. That is going to change, certainly, but that is something I'm yet to delve into. I will definitely write. The latest one that is running around the bestseller chart is One String Attached, which is romance, subaltern romance. Uh, you know about subaltern history. It's history from below. When you talk about not just the big leaders, but also the have-nots. So this is a love story of a tailor set between 1992 and 2010, Ayodhya and Delhi, demolition of the mosque and Commonwealth Games. It's the love story of a tailor. It's called One String Attached, the latest one. So next I want to experiment with a fiction during the British period, set there in the British period, yeah.